Yud Ke Vav Ke Elokim, and it's it's quite an amazing thing. We are now at the point where we're seeing the all the good stuff finally, uh, though in a difficult process. It's not easy in every case, but we're certainly in the most extraordinary place we've ever been in since, well, I guess King David, King Solomon, you have to say. And but how we got to that point, here we were in the desert. We had just gone through. Let's bring up the text, actually, the parsha. Let's see what happens. So, first of all, it's interesting to note that it was the creator whose idea was to do it. Talk about a setup, but it was creator's idea. Yud Ke Vav Ke said to Moses, "Shlach lecha, send for yourself, so that it's for yourself, because we'll get the benefit of it from what they tell us." And of course, today in Israel, the spy business is we're very good at it, and we're getting a lot of the benefit of it. But Shlach lecha nashim, and go and let them yaturu. The word yaturu is translated as scout and look at, but tour around. It's the same word as tour the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel, and send one person from each tribe. And Moses gets a top line person from each tribe, and he gives them instructions. Go there to the Negev, the hill country. What kind of land is it? Who are the people? Weak, few, or many? And is the country, is it good or bad? I guess that's in relation to their behavior. And in the towns, open or fortified? Are they basically? And the soil is rich? Has it got lots of wood? And please bring back some of the fruit. And the Torah tells us this was a good time because it was the season of the first of the ripe grapes. So they went and did it and traveled all around, and they brought the grapes, and there were huge grapes, and they saw. And 40 days later, they come, and you'd think, based on what we read here, they say, "Oh wow, yeah, there's nothing untoward in the description of the Torah of their touring around the land for 40 days." But then suddenly, when they report it from a particular perspective. And they said, yeah, we went to the land, and it is Zavat Halav Udvash. It's pouring with milk and honey, and it's got all the fruit, but the people there are strong. They're stronger than us, and the cities are fortified, and Anakites. Anakites is huge. The word Anak, they are not. The people were really large, and Amalek is in the area, and all these guys are in the area, and they made it really scary. We're just going to be attacked and so on. And Caleb and Yoshua, no. It says, no, if God is sending us there, for sure, we can do it. But the other guys, Chazak Humimenu, they're too strong for us. We can't go up there. They're too strong for us. And then they started spreading Dibata Aretz, this bad news about the land to the children of Israel, and they brought the the fear to everybody. And
I know we all know this, but just to, I feel like we should add the context that the spies were never supposed to be sent in the first place. It was only because, in the previous parsha, when the nation got to the borders, they were afraid to go in, and then they negotiated with God to have the spies be sent. I mean, I know we all know that, but it just seems
No,
like
I don't know that. I read it that it was God's initiative.
no, it
but the
wasn't.
question is,
If you read they were gonna go in, and then they hesitated, and they said, let's please send in some people to scout the land before
Wow.
we enter. And so we kind of, yeah, there were definitely some of the spies did wrong, but we kind of, it seems like whenever we read this parsha, we sort of focus just only on the spies, but the spies were never supposed to be sent as part of the original plan to begin with. We were
But
just supposed to go in.
it's demonstrating that the vast majority of if it's in proportion, the majority of the Israelites didn't have enough faith in Hashem. Isn't that right?
Exactly,
Right,
because they were still coming out of the slave mentality, and they were.
right.
But what was supposed to happen originally was they were just supposed to go in and inherit the land. And maybe if they had done that before sending the spies, then God would have started showing them victories,
can you
and they would have gotten.
I'm
Yeah.
looking for the verse that describes they're looking for that. If somebody could tell me what verse that is, I'd like to see the actual text as to.
It says in Numbers 13-1-2, God told Moses to send leaders from each tribe.
Yeah, that's all God. But what's earlier?
No, it's before that. It's before that. Here, I'll
Moses
find it.
it says Moses acted on his command and sent out 12 men.
Yeah, I know, but before that, the only
So asking to see to what verse it is in the before that.
yeah, I'll find it. I'll find it.
All right. So let's keep going then. But in any case, in this case, it's the God is directing it, and what they basically experience, what they basically report, is their own fears, their own projections, and there's a lot of different ways of understanding their bad report. But basically, it is that they were expressing their fear, their own projections, and also an inability to see God's hand in history, even though what they just went through, they think it's, God is no longer going to stay with us and we won't be able to do it. And it ends up, this is the biggest mistake we ever made in our history, because the consequence.
I found the verse. Okay, so it's Numbers 13. No, it's sorry. Deuteronomy 1:22. There's a pasuk in there where the nation steps up and says, "Let us send men ahead of us."
Hold on, Deuteronomy 1:22.
Yeah. When they're on let us send men ahead of us so they may explore the land for us.
It's in the retelling. If something is in Deuteronomy,
right.
So that's it needs to be looked at. But the way we have it here is this was.
But anyways, that did happen before the spies were sent. But it did.
Yeah, the way Moses tells it is, we then went through and gone. We've come to the land. So there it has it. The people did say
they were worried.
So that, and I approved it.
That's strange, isn't it? Because in Numbers it shows it looks like God's initiative, and then in Deuteronomy,
And
the other way around.
here, God has nothing to do with it.
I mean, they're just worried and asking Moses, but they didn't say to dispatch them then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they
it's
requested. No, they
it's
did.
strange that you
They
get that
they
contradiction between the two
they re-
texts.
They requested this. They requested the spies. They hesitated before they got to before they went in, and they asked that spies be sent ahead of them. So it was.
Anashim lefanenu. They asked to send people, and they should yafteru lanu. They'll send us a report and tell us what's ahead. And
I mean,
all
either way,
Moses,
it's an incredible demonstration of a lack of faith, because they hear that Moshe is saying that God says, this is a land I'm going to give you, go out and check it out. And how can they, after all they've seen, and they just haven't got that faith in Hashem.
Well, it's true. It's true. And it's interesting what Moses says in Deuteronomy. The message they brought back is that this land that Hashem is giving you is good, and he doesn't deal with their. And they saw that it was good, but they saw that the challenges there were more than they could handle, and they're better to go back to die, go back to Egypt or die in the desert. And first, God tries to, he says that I'm going to wipe out everybody. And then Moses argues with God, says, what are people going to say if you do that? They'll misunderstand that. But in every case, God does give it very harsh consequences of all the sins. Just find where God says, here it is. So here's God says, no matter what, okay, I'm not going to kill the entire people, but I will do just as you urged me. Okay. I want to see. Okay, sorry. But there's a significant verse here that's just before, and what part of their argument is when they say it would have been better that God would have killed us or go back to Egypt and die, or die here in the desert. And God's response is, well, you're going to get what you asked for. Your fears are going to be what you create. You created your consequences and everything. And you obviously don't have what it takes in order for the next step in history. So we're going to have to, and he doesn't forgive them is the point. In most other sins, they mention the cheta ego, which idolatry and so on, and yet it wasn't everybody. There was only a few, whoever was experienced the consequences, and ultimately was forgiven. But this ultimately has never been forgiven. And as I live, I will do to you just as you have urged me. Kasher dibartem be'oznai. When you said, that we should die in the desert, God heard that. Well, kein eserachem, I'll do that for you. In this desert, all your carcasses are going to drop. Everybody 20 years on, no one is going to go into the land except Caleb thing. And then your children will go.
Right. So I've got one question about that. It's relating, I think, to a midrash. The midrash, I think, is that they used to dig. Was it before Tisha B'Av? They used to, the anniversary, used to dig graves, expecting this year.
The day they came back and told the story was Tisha B'Av.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then in the 39th year, they prepared some graves and they said nobody died.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
But that's strange, because here the curse is, or the judgment is, that all of them over the age of 20 will not enter the land. They'll all die in the desert, and only Joshua and Caleb will go in. So it's strange. Why is there a query? Why? You see what I'm saying?
Well, it's a very harsh judgment. That's in terms of Chazal and various people discussing it. They say of all the sins the Jewish people ever did, this is the harshest one. We got the strongest response,
Yeah,
and so on. So it's a very serious. It's super serious.
But it's
And
also a straw though. I mean, there was the sin of the quails. There was the sin of the whole thing with Balak. There was the sin of
there are 10
golden-
of them. The Midrash, you'll find 10 of them, and they say this is the worst one. That's a quote, basically. All right. So
Wait,
my question,
I'm sorry to keep interrupting, Rabbi, but I'm curious about this. Do you know how many times it says that God will wipe out the nation and start anew? Because I know it says that after the sin of the golden calf, and it says it after this sin. Do you know that? I'm just curious about that.
so ask your telephone and let us know.
Okay.
I'd like to know.
All right. I'll consider.
I don't know
I'll
if
let you
there was
continue.
any other time. I don't know if there was any other time where God said, "I'm going to wipe out the entire people."
The golden
It's not-
calf, it did. Okay. Never mind. I'll get back to you.
All right. So let's bring in Torah Rav Kook into this. But first, well, okay. So how are we to understand in our time the sin of the spies? And is it still going on? And so forth. So the first place that there's a treatment of the sin of the spies is in the
There was two times, the golden calf and this time. Those are the only two.
so the treatment that Tzvi Yehuda they ready to, this is considered more serious than the golden calf. All right. So this is from Kol HaTor, which is the teachings of the Vilna Gaon about the process of Geula. And it was written by one of his main students, and it's basically the guidebook for all the Vilna Gaon people that brought them to Israel. And it's really the guidebook. And there's a great translation of it. This little chapter isn't in the translation, but it's really worth reading. And it's very important information to understand history. It's the most accurate history book, so to speak. And it's the teachings of the Vilna Gaon. And within that, there is a chapter called Tikkun Cheta Meraglim al Yedei Binyan Yerushalayim, the fixing of the sin of the spies through the building of Jerusalem. And what I'm going to do, I'll read the parts I'm going to read, and I'll just read it directly into English so we don't get, we have enough time to cover.
But by the way, you're coming over very much in an echoey voice. Have you changed the settings at all?
I'm using my earphones.
Okay, I think it might have changed the sound a bit.
Okay, hold on a second. I'll just
start. Is that better now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So now I'm on this the way it was on the speaker. All right. So the sin of the spies in the desert in the days of Moses was one of the largest collective sins that happened to the nation of Israel, and it's the same thing, basically saying it's basically the worst sin that ever happened to Israel in all our generations until today. According to the Midrash, that the rabbi said that it created tears for all the generations. That's the Midrash says that they seeded tears, the tears of that night. They seeded tears for all the generations, and tears because of the sin of the spies, the tears of the destruction of the temple, the destruction of Jerusalem and the abandonment, the desolation of the land of Israel. And in a great measure, also Israel, the people of Israel over all the generations suffered uh, in the exile a lot of bitterness because of that emerged out of the sin of the spies. And we see that the consequences, the onesh of this chet, they certainly happened in that generation. That whole generation had to die out. But it's also was spread over all the generations. So from that moment on, and especially when we went into exile and so on and so forth, we kept experiencing the consequences of the sin of the spies. And the Vilna Gaon taught his students that in order to fix a great repair for the sin of the spies has to come by the liberation of Jerusalem. These teachings are in the late 1700s. The liberation of Jerusalem and the building of Jerusalem, and on all the efforts to gather together the exiles, kibbutz galiot. Based on the known principle that it's this corresponding to this, mida keneged mida, chov lehen skut. So basically, the point is, he says, if we want God to change his attitude, we have to change our behavior, and God will respond to our behavior, and and it's through that we always have the possibility of fixing whatever we've ruined. And here we have the situation that the sin of the spies that brought tears for many, many generations, as it said, that they cried on that night, and here he brings in that night was Tisha B'Av, the night that the destruction of the temple. Well, from that we learn that the repair of the sin of the spies has to be by rebuilding the temple. But before we can rebuild the temple, we have to build Jerusalem. As the Vilna Gaon explained on the Pasuk, Yerushalayim tibaneh vehechal husad, that you build Jerusalem and then establish its Heichal, as it said about the beginning of the Geula in the days of Cyrus. But to our sadness, there are many people currently who are sinning this great sin, and they are yimasu be'eretz chemda. They disdain the beloved land, and there are many people who are Torah people that don't know and don't understand that they've been caught in the sin of the spies. They've got some of the klipa of the sin of the spies, and they make up all these really disappointing explanations and empty explanations, and they also cover their ideas with this exaggerated, ridiculous idea that there's no such mitzvah as settling in the land of Israel in our times. That's not a mitzvah anymore. And what basically saying is all the religious Jews that are saying we shouldn't be going to Israel right now, it's like it's a huge, it's the Chet HaMeraglim. Well, that whole rabbinic Jewish attitude. And this idea has already been negated by our and meaning, and there's different rabbis, they quote the Ramban and so on. They all Ramban, they all said it's a mitzvah to go back in Israel and to do it as fast as possible. And so, but all these rabbis, these spies, want to be greater than our rabbis, our Tanaim and our Amoraim, the Mishnah rabbis, that established that the dwelling in the land of Israel is equal to all the mitzvot in the Torah. And we have the Ramban, who established that the mitzvah of dwelling in the land of Israel is a positive mitzvah, it's a positive thing. And he quotes other people that support that. And then okay, let's keep going. And you have to understand, Rav Kook is considered I've said this a number of times, but the inheritor of Torah of Gaon. So he was carrying out, whatever he was carrying out was also based on what's in on these teachings. And then he says here, that the Vilna Gaon, and in naming other people, but he says, who's greater now in our generation than the Vilna Gaon, that who is pressing, inflaming all his students to go up to the land of Israel and to be involved in bringing the exiles back to Israel. And he so much encouraged his students to bring about the revealed ending by bringing it closer, by initiating the return to Israel, the dwelling of Israel. And every day he spoke to us in great feeling and trembling. Ki b'Tzion u'b'Yerushalayim tiyeh pleitah. He was telling his students, in Zion and Yerushalayim will be the pleitah, is almost like the shelter, the thing, away from all the destruction. Because part of their teaching is destruction is going to come. And the Jews have to get out. And not le'acher et hamoed. This is a little bit hard. And not to miss the moment, not to come too late. Which we obviously did because of what happened. And then a little further down, this is how great is the pain of that many of Achenu Bnei Israel, that many of our brothers and sisters of the children of Israel and their children who were planning enthusiastically to travel to the land of Israel based on the Gra was a big initiator of that, but they were chilled nitkareru baderech, and that's what it's in the parsha. It says that they got frightened on the path, and they got their heat. They cooled off to the idea. But who did that is because of some Torah scholars who didn't know and didn't understand that which our Rabbeinu taught, Rabbeinu I guess would be the Vilna Gaon, ki b'kibbutz galuyot yigbara sitra achra. As the people are going to start to return, the sitra achra is going to grow. And meaning all the rabbis that didn't move into saying to go to Israel, they were all being the sitra achara. God grabbed them, because this is what it says in a particular midrash, that when Israel emerges out of exile, Amalek meets them on the path. So meaning these people who got the idea that no, we're not supposed to go to Israel, and that the Mashiach comes and all that stuff, they've been Amalekized.
And Amalek is the same gematria as Sophic, which is doubt.
Safek, yeah. And so he says, and this is the koach hatuma that they said, asher karcha b'derech, that will cool you off on the path. How powerful is its strength? It's the satanic power that has brought in a just wrong thinking, even in the Torah scholars, that are basically delaying the Geula. And so we, in our generation, Hameraglim, Hayu Gdolei Israel. The spies are the great scholars of Israel, the Hasatan Hasiam, Rahmanathan, and they've been taken over by the Satan.
When did Rav Kook write this?
This is not Rav Kook. This is the Vilna Gaon teaching
Oh, right.
in the 1800s.
Oh, this is Rivlin.
Yeah, well, who wrote this particular was another family. Yeah, oh yeah, Yosef Rivlin, that's right. Yeah, so it's okay. So now here, let's just read one more and another page.
And it was Amalek who, right after they repented after the report of the spies and they tried to start going into land, it was Amalek who attacked them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so here he says, so what is happening? He goes a longer discussion, but basically he's saying that all of these rabbis and Torah scholars and stuff, Klipat hameraglim medaberet mitoch geronam. It's the klipa, the outer shell of the spies, is what's speaking through their throats. They're spokespeople for the klipa of the meraglim that is still with us, is the point. And so, as we explained, that the fixing of the sin of the spies has to come, and it can only come al yedei binyan Yerushalayim, by building Jerusalem, harchavat hayishuv, b'mitzvat harchava, to expand the dwelling, to the land of Israel, like settling the land of Israel in its mitzvat harchava, carrying out the mitzvahs of the land. It's tzav hanevui. This is the nevuah. This is the prophetic commandment. Harshivi makom ohalech. Expand the place of your tent. And I don't see where they don't have this particular nevuah where it comes from. But that's basically, so this is what the Vilna Gaon was explaining to his students, that we have to now go back to the land of Israel and start building it. And that's the fixing of the spies, and also to make clear that the tuma of the spies is going to come up, especially once our energy to return to Israel becomes strong. This is going to come up and delay the path. It'll cool off the path, and it cooled off the people who would be most into it, the religious people, who have been praying for them. That's why the Zionists, the irreligious, had to pop in
Right.
to carry it out. And,
The
and that's
quote from "Enlarge the place of your tent" comes from Isaiah
thank you.
54:2.
All right, good. So then I want to go now into Rav Kook's writings, and that we have it, I think, here. All right. So this is from what Rav Kook wrote in 1907. He wrote, and we learned this months ago as Kriyat Dolah, the great call. And I'm just going to be taking pieces from it that relate to the spy energy of our day. So I'm reading it in a different order. But here he says, and this is a letter he wrote to all of Israel in 1907. Great is our obligation to awaken the ancient love for Zion, the eternal love that, like in the days before, so too now is burning in the hearts, the holy inflamed hearts, in the hearts of the children of our people, in every place where they are. This is now coming up. He's saying there is this love coming up, and we have to awaken this love and support it. And here's where he's talking about the spies. However, aleinu lilchom bekol os. As part of doing this, we have to fight with all our strength, besinat eretz hakodesh, to the hatred of the Holy Land, שהתחילה להיכנס בפרטים מקרבנו, that has begun to enter parts of our community. And here he's talking about the strong religious denial of Israel. עלינו להשמיד בזרוע עוז רוחנו. We have to destroy with the power of our outstretched, our outstretched spirituality, and with the eternal holiness of our beloved land. We have to destroy with etazuhuma shel meradlim, the toxicity, the pollution of the spies that is still with us, that especially at the time of grace, as we're starting to return, is starting to awaken a little bit. More and more. In 1907, as Israel got more, it got stronger and stronger. And of course, within this is contained the idea that that's with the Midrash, that as we start to wake up to this, Amalek is going to step in and do whatever's necessary from within us and without us to prevent that. And he says, we have to destroy the entire toxicity of the spies, that particularly at the time of as the time of return is beginning, they're coming up. המרגליות היא מתאבקת בשארית כוחה. This spyism is now fighting with all the power that it has, But we can say confidently in the name of God who chose the Holy Land that this effort to prevent us from returning and prevent us uh, from within ourselves from returning, it is like the last flicker of the flame. It's the fire of the spies, but this is the last flickering flame, because ultimately um, it's that is coming up before it will be extinguished forever, because the power of our affection for the Holy Land, the love of Zion and Jerusalem, will walk its path, and it will illuminate like the sun in its strength all the ways of Jacob. את חבלי אדם ועבותות אהבה תמשך כולם. And with Chavlei Adam, I think represents sort of like like ropes and and expressions of love. It'll draw everyone, all her children, to her beloved land, to the house of their lives. Dvar Elokeinu yakum leolam. The word of God is going to be established forever. The holiness of our beloved land didn't change and will never change. And all the bitter things that we've happened to us that materially and spiritually didn't destroy that. And they actually ended up increasing our love for the land. And then I want to go to another page in the same thing, but a little earlier. So what should we do? There we go. This is at the beginning of the same letter, where he says like this. So what must we do? Bo le'eretz Israel. Come to the land of Israel. I remember the title of the entire piece was Hakri'ah Hagdola le'eretz Israel, the great call to the land of Israel. And this in many ways is the primary call of, well, this is our spiritual leader, but it's really the primary call to Israel from the highest level. You know, the Zionists and everybody had to, but this call that was in 1907, Rav Kook had been in Israel for 3 years, and it's calling out Bekol Echad, Bekol Gadol. He's saying we have to call this out. We have to scream this out in one voice, in a loud voice. Bo le'eretz Israel, come to the land of Israel. Kol Hashem koreh otanu, the voice of God, the call of God is calling to us. His hand is extended to us. His spirit that is in our heart is gathering us and encouraging us. Vehu machriach otanu kulanu, and God is moving us all to call out in a great and powerful, awesome voice, Achenu bnei Israel, our brothers and sisters, the children of Israel, Achim ahuvim v'yikarim, precious, beloved brothers and sisters, Bo'u le'eretz Israel, come to the land of Israel. The buds, the nitzanim, the blossoms are being seen in the land. Come, precious brothers and sisters, and see how the rose of Jacob is beginning to flower on its holy land. Come and see how the spirit of Israel is flowering and awakening to rebirth, to a life of honor and strength. Do you know, beloved brothers and sisters who are miserable, living in lands of darkness? Do you realize, all you Jews out there in the land in exile, the Otzar Hagadol shel HaKdusha ve'Hamenucha, the great treasure of holiness, menucha, rest, oneg v'shalva, pleasure and tranquility, shel romemut haruach, that the elevation of the spirit, gdulat nefesh, and a growth of the being, the holiness of life, the adirut harayon, the adinut haragesh, the powerful thinking and the refined feelings that are in every heart of everyone in Israel who is dwelling in the land of Israel. He's telling us to the Jews in exile. Do you realize how, and he goes on here, there's more here, but go to Eretz Yisrael, come to the land of Israel, and come to the land of Israel. But this is all in the context of this is destroying the pollution, the toxicity, the sickness of the spies that we still have is still attached to us. Because he said, he was very, very clear, he saw all the anti-Israel attitudes that Jews on both sides had, and he's saying that's all, this is all the remnant, the active remnant in our time to the spies. And so then let's finish with one more source. Oh, good, all right. This he wrote 1 year later, 1908, and he wrote this to a gathering of rabbis that was taking place in Jerusalem. It was a new sort of organization of rabbis to move history forward, and they asked him to come to speak. He couldn't come to speak, but instead he wrote them a letter. And I just want to read just a few parts from that letter. And with that, I guess we'll probably all right, quickly, yeah, all right. So here he says, but my precious ones of my heart, I find it necessary to point out to you that right now the eyes of all Israel are upon you, and you must make an effort to seek the greatest and most exalted things. Our generation is a generation of great aspiration. And if we give them empty, like lesser aspirations, nobody's going to go for it. It is now time, lidrosh et Hashem, to seek the Creator. Hahechrech meromam otanu lemadrigot gdolot. The necessity will raise us to very great heights. Our necessity right now to come close to God. And a little later on the same page, he says, Yesod hagalut v'hashiflut hanimshach ba'olam, the foundation of the exilic mind and the lowliness that is continuing in the world. Why are Jews still, in sort of low exilic states? That's all in the world. Rak mima she'en modi'im et Eretz Yisrael, because we are not acknowledging, recognizing, identifying the land of Israel, et erka v'chachmata, its importance, its value, and its wisdom. Ve'ein metaknim et achet hameraglim, and we are not fixing the sin of the spies, shehotziu diba al haaretz, that put out all this bad message on the land. Well, b'tshuvat hamishkal. We're not meeting them in an equal way. And here it's implied, in order to fix the sin of the spies who said all this awful things about the land, we have to lahagid ulevaser be'olam kulo, to speak about and announce to the entire world Hod the Hadar of Israel, Kedusha and the Kavod of Israel, the Alavai Sheniske Achrei Kol, basically saying we have to, speak Israel to the world. And all right, so sorry. All right, so I'll try to finish in 2 minutes. We'll go as far as we go. But the point is basically, it's been made that we now, in our support,
what is the direct translation? You have, presumably you have it. Lidosh et Hashem, does it mean to beseech him or to inquire of his nearness? Of what is the implication?
I'm not sure which what you're referring to. So
The last thing that we read from the Vilna Gaon.
So let's.
Lo chashuv. It's a question of language.
Well, I'm happy to look at it in a moment then.
Okay.
So, but let's just end with these lines, which I don't think I read, which I think I meant to. But in every case, this is what he's going back to the piece that what he's writing to the rabbis. So let us here acknowledge, brothers and sisters, and bless the name of God, the God of Israel, who is establishing us in the crown of light. Let us understand Hakol Efshar. Everything is possible. Because what the spy said, this is too great for us. We're not able to do this. And it's not even Efshar, Ki'im Mukhrach. It's absolutely necessary for us. Kishemevakshim et hatov ha'elyon, when we seek the highest good, hamukhan lihidaresh b'tzion, that is ready to come out in Zion, when we seek that, motzi'im hakol, we will find it. Ve'al yikaten be'einenu erech hahityashvut hagdola, and let us not look down as small the importance of this great dwelling, the people that are dwelling in the land, even though it's not a lot of people. Don't misunderstand its importance. This is Am Hashem coming back to Admot HaKodesh, Ve'ot Gdola V'Simcha, and it is a great sign and a great happy sign. And that's what, Ve'ora, we're coming back. Okay, I missed one line, and I'm going to end it with the next couple of lines of it. But he says, let's not misunderstand the importance and the significance of the dwelling now in Israel, of the holy nation, the people of God on the Holy Land. It is a great and happy sign. we now need to be engaged in Torah for its own sake on our Holy Land. And it is, here's the line I missed. This is a sign for us that this is all happening, that the steps of Malach Abrit, the angel of the covenant, Haholech Vekarev, is coming closer and closer to us. And therefore, with hearts full of holiness and light, we have to turn to the effort of being engaged in Torah in the Holy Land. And we must now make the effort that our actions will reach, our deeds will reach the deeds of our ancestors, Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and will reach the level of the revelation of Eliyahu, that there's a process here, that all of this has many steps until Na'aleh Lemala, we will reach that level, Kol Kach Gedolah, such a great level, that will also reach the world of action. Yakitsu ve'yironenu shochnei afar beformat, will be able to carry out everything and anything that Israel needs to carry out and that God is asking us to do. Will bring it into the world of Asiyah completely. And we're working on it. And many of Israel are. But Rav Kook was writing in 1907 and asking all of Israel to be involved in this right now, right then. And had we would have had the state of Israel in the 1920s. So I bless us now, though, that we can ultimately come to the highest fulfillment. B'mehera b'yameinu v'nomar
Amen.
Amen. Bring immediate victory to all the Tzva Agana Israel, protection to all the holy Chayalim and Chayalot, healing to everybody wounded in body and spirit, comfort to the so many mourners, and elevation of the holy souls, and to bring complete Geulah into the world immediately.
Amen.
Nomar.